Hello, I am Nigel Clark, a TV presenter and parenting professional. Welcome to the Children's Media Conference Get In and Get On to Marketing You, where we'll give you an overview of what you need to know to succeed in this area. This video will give you some insight into how to market yourself and how you can use social media and content creation to kickstart and advance your career. We'll also give you some top tips so that you can get in and get on with showcasing yourself online. Our expert speaker today is Emily Horgan. Emily is an independent media consultant who writes frequently about children's media and co-hosts the Kids Media Club podcast. Emily, great to have you here.
Thanks, Nigel.
So, Emily, can you give us a bit more information about your experience and how you started your career?
Yeah, sure. So I did a degree in film and broadcasting, and then I got an internship in a TV channel based in Ireland. And the thing that actually blew my mind at that time was that, my whole degree up to that point had been like production, direction, writing. And then I suddenly landed in broadcast and I learned about the business of TV and all the other, there's like tons of jobs and tons of functions within the business of TV that are all like a great opportunity for a career path. From there, I moved over to London. I worked for Jetix and Disney Channel. And then I came up through Disney. I worked in non-linear before it was cool. So that was like YouTube, kind of around the time of like Teen Beach Movie, around the time of Descendants. And then I moved on to looking at how content distribution, so like being on a linear channel like Disney Channel or being on YouTube, can help drive things like consumer products, like toys. And so that was my last role at Disney. From there, I became an independent media consultant, which is what I am now.
And how would you describe the role of a media consultant?
So I basically use my expertise to help more independent clients. I give them advice relating to their content strategies, relating to their, what they're thinking about how to commercialize their business. And it's a bit like, because I'm not like a producer, director or a writer, like I said before, it's been difficult for me to kind of illustrate to clients the kinds of things I can help them with, things like marketing campaigns. And so as part of trying to market myself, what I started doing was writing online about the things I knew about as they related to news stories that were coming through in the media industry. I became a content creator on LinkedIn, writing about the industry, like looking at what's happening in the industry, giving my points of view, and also engaging with other creators that are on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has become quite a positive place in the last few years. And so that was a really good way of kind of showing myself, showing to clients the kinds of things that I can help them with. Because it was difficult before to kind of, I couldn't just say, hey, I presented that show or I wrote that show. It was like, oh, I did the toy strategy for that show, which is just a bit more difficult to illustrate. So it's been a really great opportunity for me.
The way you describe it seems like there are a lot of different aspects to being a media consultant. So can you explain what those roles are and the difference between maybe being a content creator, a contributor or a commentator?
One of the ways I get them in the door and they kind of find out who I am or what I might know about is through content creation. So I post on LinkedIn regularly. I have a newsletter that I run, the Kids Streamer Sphere. And I post on X, formerly known as Twitter. I just still have to call it Twitter. I'm really sorry.
Everyone does though, don't they?
Okay, good. So I started doing that, and that actually built relationships for me. And then I was asked to join the Kids Media Club podcast as a co-host. So I've been doing that for the past few years. And then that led to other opportunities to contribute to industry websites like The Drum. I write for a website called What's on Netflix, which is like all the detail on all the Netflix kind of windows. That was actually created by this amazing guy who did it as his A-level project. So it's really worth checking out. And then I was asked, and from there it's kind of built that I've been asked to contribute to give my quotes to various news articles and that kind of thing, and even for Children's Media Conference, where, like I'm doing right now, is just making a contribution and kind of sharing my thoughts.
You mentioned a couple of different platforms there. Which content platforms do you use and why do you use them?
I would lean into the platforms that and you're native to, and build something there with consistency. I post on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is good for, like, you kind of have to keep it a little bit formal because obviously it is a professional networking site. But that's quite good because it kind of helps you kind of write it correctly, read it correctly, rewrite it, and then again always, and make sure that, like, you know, what you're saying is clear. So that's one platform that I use a lot. I use Twitter a lot more casually. It's a bit more like a brain dump, and I kind of just shoot from the hip a bit more. It's a bit like, if I have a thought, I'll tweet it so that I can kind of search my own thoughts sometimes, because I'm like, oh, I remember thinking something about that. What was it? And then, like, anyway, so that's how I use Twitter. And it's been funny because I've met a whole different group of people on LinkedIn that I've met on Twitter, and they're both wonderful in their own ways. And then I consume content, of course. Like, I find TikTok has been amazing for professional content creators. I don't know if everybody knows this. So, like, Lauren Spearman is a TikToker I follow. She is a marketer, and she is also calling out the industry for writing decent job descriptions. Molly McPherson is another, like, a PR guru who, like, will break down the PR strategies of, like, she will be breaking down precisely play by play what they're doing from a PR point of view. So, like, there's lots of different platforms that offer lots of different things in terms of both posting and consumption.
So what would you say is the content that's working well at the moment, and how do you create the content? And then eventually, what does that content deliver for you?
Yeah, I think the key thing is to write about what you're passionate about. You know, like, being a content creator or actively content creating isn't necessarily, it shouldn't be a goal within itself. I don't think, you know, you should come your passion about an industry, or you could be passionate about animation. You could love Pixar, I love DreamWorks, whatever. And you can kind of be going, right, well, what are the moments of those movies that there's going to be something cool to be saying, right? Like when the trailer drops, when the poster drops, you know, keeping up with any news on the release strategy and all that kind of stuff. There's a few sites then, like, so I get really into the data, and I find, like, data as a pipeline is great for content creation, because every time there's new data, there's kind of a new thing to say. And the good thing about those kinds of avenues is try to think of something that, like, there'll be a reason to be speaking about it on a kind of semi-often basis. So, like, there's various areas where you can jump into that conversation, whether you're posting about it yourself or you're just engaging and adding your comments or adding your likes or whatever onto the conversations that are already happening. I mean, I think for me, in terms of finding the best content that works, like, you need to be authentic to yourself, you know, and trying to do something that's gimmicky isn't really gonna, you know, it might work a little bit, but if it's not real, you're not going to be able to do it with consistency. And I think that's the main thing, is, like, you gotta show up consistently on the platforms, and be kind of doing that practice, if you know what I mean, so that you're practicing writing, but you're also kind of, it becomes like a habit, and, you know, you're doing it and people expect you to be there, and then you can build relationships and everything from there. And that's what I've found. And particularly within kids, you know, any young person entering this industry knows way more about, you know, our audience than we do, because they were so recently our audience. Plus, they know the platforms so intimately and so fluently, you know, platforms like TikTok, platforms like Roblox. So their points of view in this are really, really valuable, just like, you know, they would be in an office. But the good thing about LinkedIn and those kinds of platforms is you don't have to necessarily get the job to start having the conversations. You don't need that permission, you know?
Can you maybe touch upon what some of the common mistakes are, the do nots,
yes,
when trying to promote yourself online?
I would say do not post online with the intention of becoming an influencer, or with the intention of, or with the objective that this is going to be the be all and end all that gets you a job. Do it because you're interested in an industry, and do it because you are, you know, because that feeds you. That in of itself needs to be the end goal, and then from there, other things can definitely build and flow. And also, like, it's when you're thinking of LinkedIn, right? Like, it's a professional site, so don't say anything on LinkedIn that you wouldn't say in the office. You know, so, like, I think, you know, but that's obvious, but it's just like, you know, you just got to be kind, you got to be nice, you got to be respectful. I mean, that should be the rules of the internet, whether it is or not.
Yeah, you know, it can be different. Okay, so in summary, can you tell us your top tips for someone who's just getting started and wants a simple way to begin marketing themselves?
Yeah. get on LinkedIn, get following people, obviously get connecting with anyone you know in the industry, and just join the conversation like in a real way, you know, and you know, follow things that you find fascinating. And then as you build kind of confidence, go in but be curious. You know, people speak on LinkedIn with authority, but there's also like a whole really important underbelly of curiosity, particularly with somebody new in the industry. If you're showing curiosity and you're showing genuine interest with people who are posting, you're gonna build a relationship with them over time. I think that's pretty that's it's just going to be inevitable. And I would say the same ditto for TikTok. I like professional TikTok has totally blown my mind in the last year. I'm learning so much, and the creators on there are so generous and open to having chats and genuinely make you as excited as they clearly do me. Then like just join the conversation, because you know your point of view is definitely going to be valid. Come and chat to me. I'm not big enough to not notice anybody who doesn't like a post. So like, you know, it's all good, and I think it's a great way of, as I said, building those genuine relationships with people.
Amazing advice, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks for watching How to Get In and Get On to Marketing You. Good luck with starting your career, and we'll see you soon.